Lucy CORMACK Last updated 2035, May 18, 2018. Katrina Miles with their 4 children who were killed by their grandfather, Peter Miles. When Peter and Cinda Miles lived on a quaint quarter-acre block in central Margaret River, Western Australia. More than 5 years ago, life was comfortable. A close-knit community lay at their doorstep, while a burgeoning veggie patch grew in the yard. But the pair sought a different kind of happiness, and not just for themselves. They wanted to start a new life for their daughter Katrina and her 4 children, who were at the centre of an ugly custody battle. The family's property in Osmington, Western Australia. They sold out their townhouse for $545,000, 500,000 Australian dollars, and on Christmas Eve 2014 upsized, purchasing an $800,000 property 20 kilometers northeast. A small hobby farm in nearby Osmington. Read more. The problem with the good bloke narrative. Aaron Cockman, father of Australia's Margaret River shooting victims, speaks 2-minute emergency call. The key to Margaret River deaths. Guns found at property belonged to grandfather. Western Australian Premier. Police defend gun laws in wake of Margaret River tragedy. 3 adults and 4 children found dead in Western Australia town. Peter, 61 and Cinda, 58, lived in the main house while Katrina, 35, and the children, Tay, 13, Rylan, 12, Air, 10 and Caden, 8, moved into a converted shed on the property. Peter didn't snap. Aaron Cockman, the father of 4 children killed by their grandfather in Western Australia, speaks publicly for the first time since Friday's shooting. The children were homeschooled and, with an abundant fruit and vegetable garden, hens, sheep and cows, the Miles' new home should have been a haven. Cinda made it her business to know about growing veg. Cinda's close friend and neighbor Felicity Haynes says, they had hens, sheep and cows. Cinda had 4 different types of runner beans, Russian tomatoes, things you can't normally buy in the shops. In recent weeks Peter had become desperate looking for casual work, and Cinda had confided in friends she was becoming concerned about her husband's mental state. Peter Miles, second from left, his wife, Cinda, back right. Their daughter Katrina, left, and her 4 children, Tay, Rylan, Air, and Caden, and today that haven bears the bloodstains of the entire family, the site of Australia's worst mass shooting since the 1996 Port Arthur massacre. The emergency call. Peter Miles made a 2-minute 000 call from the property at 5:15 a.m. on Friday, May 11. What he said to the operator has not been made public, but it prompted 2 police officers, Senior Sergeant Brett Cassidy and Senior Constable Ian Southall, to make the 20-minute drive to the property in early morning darkness. But even though first light on the farm was still more than half an hour away, there would be little masking the horror scene waiting for them. Walking into the converted shed, the officers found the 3 eldest children, Tay, Rylan and Air, dead in their beds. A short distance away, their younger brother Caden had been shot dead along with his mother as they slept side by side. When Cassidy and Southall entered the main house, they found Cinda lying dead on the ground on the living room, and, on the outside porch, was the body of Peter. Police do not always know the circumstances when they are attending a scene. This was one such event, West Australian Police Commissioner Chris Dawson said hours after the bodies were found. You don't always get all of the information when you receive 000 calls. In this situation the police made the exact proper response based on the information in the call. Whatever was said in that emergency call also left the 2 officers satisfied they were not hunting some crazed gunman, and there were no other suspects. Peter Miles, who was previously the manager of the school farm at the local high school, had murdered 6 members of his family before turning the gun on himself. The police investigation quickly turned from who did this, to why. Peter was becoming less rational. Before last Friday, few Australians would have heard of Osmington, a town just outside Margaret River, the popular tourist hub known worldwide for its wine and surf in Western Australia's southwest. With little more than a bush chapel and 135 people, the locals describe Osmington as less a town, more a village. Perhaps this was the appeal for the Miles family when they moved into the town 4 years ago. Peter wasn't an articulate man. He was very quiet, a hard, good farm worker, says their neighbor, Haynes, who visited Cinda Miles each Saturday. There are lots of people like that out here. You don't talk about things. She says Cinder had only recently told her there were a few difficulties at home and that Peter was becoming less rational, which was a worry to her. The contradiction between Peter and Cinder was just remarkable. He was an asocial person, where Cinder was bright, bubbly, loved having people to the house, made innumerable cups of tea and scones for anyone, Hines says. Haynes, a retired academic who has lived in the region since 2003, first met the Miles family around 4 years ago at a permaculture course at the local school farm. She said the reasons the Miles family moved from town to Osmington were well thought out. Katrina was the reason they bought the farm property. The idea was to start a new sustainable life, to build up a food and farm supply and live without an income, she says. However, there are indications the plan for a family haven had not transpired as hoped, and some in the community have suggested the Miles were suffering financial hardship. Peter had posted an online advertisement less than 48 hours before he would murder his family looking for vineyard and farm work. Richard Dosser, who lived near the Miles property, says he spoke to Peter the night before the mass shooting and offered him a job. Dosser says Peter sounded strange on the phone. He was just not someone who I would have thought was keen to find a new client or customer, Dosser told 7 News. He didn't seem enthusiastic, if you know what I mean. Organic farmer B. Winfield, who lives a 45-minute drive from the Miles property, this week told the media she was friends with the family and that Peter was a very quiet guy who would fade into the background. He would, however, talk about state politics and the rough deal farmers were receiving. Hines Farm is so close to the Miles that a friend staying with a neighbor woke to the sound of gunfire cracks last Friday around 4:30 a.m. I didn't hear anything, but my friend Meg, she woke, thought it was kangaroo shoots, she says. She went to town about 11 a.m. and then phoned me from just beyond Cinder's farm. She said something very bad has happened. The aftermath in an extraordinary press conference little more than 48 hours after his children had been murdered by their grandfather, Aaron Cockman fronted the cameras and offered a rare insight into the mind of a grieving father. He said he thought he knew why Miles had killed his family. Peter didn't snap. He knew what he was doing. He did it really well, Cockman said. If someone was gonna do it, I trust he did it right, and he did it right. He said the lengthy custody battle between himself and Katrina wasn't her at all, but was driven by her parents. Kat's mum said to me once, "You'll see, Kat will make sure you and your parents never see those kids again." In a revealing tale of the struggles faced by the two families, he said the Miles family had struggled ever since learning that Neil Miles, Peter and Cinder's son, was awaiting a kidney transplant. He is one of 2 sons to the Osmington couple. The third son is understood to have taken his own life about 10 years ago. I thought if something happens to Neil, Kat will not be able to lose another brother. I didn't think about Cinder and Peter. There's no way possible he could lose another son, he said. He's just thought, I can't live anymore, so this is it for me. But I need to take out everyone because that will fix the whole problem, and he's fixed the whole problem. The past few days Margaret River's town centre has been quiet. Locals have remarked on just how quiet it has been. What we're doing now is trying to organize something positive to celebrate the family, Cinder in particular, says Haynes. She epitomized the sharing and caring of our community, she says, adding there would be a commemorative service held on Monday. The last time Cockman saw his children was 2 weeks ago, on the little roundabout swings in Bustleton, but he says he holds no anger towards his former father-in-law who was responsible for their death. The coroner will now investigate the circumstances around the 7 deaths, but as the local community searches for answers, Commissioner Dawson has already warned we may never really know what drove Peter Miles to carry out his monstrous act. Where to get help? 1737. Need to talk. Free call or text 1737 anytime for support from a trained counselor. Lifeline 0800 543 354 or 09 5222 999 within Auckland. Youthline 0800 376 633. Free text 234 or email talk@youthline.co.nz or online chat. Samaritans 0800 726 666. Suicide Crisis Helpline 0508 828 865, 0508 TOW TOPO. If it is an emergency or you, or someone you know, is at risk, call 111. Sydney Morning